Okay, so it's really exciting for me to be here at Silverthorn. I had the privilege of being here for the graduation ceremony back in June. And attending graduation ceremonies is one of the most special things I get to do. And it's special for me to be here with you guys who will be graduating very, very soon. And I hope I have the privilege of attending your graduations that are coming up as well. Before I started the announcement, I just want to tell you a quick story about my background. I grew up in a family where my grandparents, like many of your parents, potentially, immigrated to Canada. And they came to Canada, like so many people do, seeking a better life. They came from great hardship, and they came to Canada hoping that their children, their grandchildren, would have a better life, right? And they came to the best country in the world, right?
Right.
Right. So one of the things that was really important for my grandparents was education. And for them, graduating from high school and then having me graduate from either college or university was really, really important. And I remember the day I graduated from my university, from my high school, but then also from my university degree, and that was probably one of the proudest days of my grandparents' lives, right? Why were they so proud? They were so proud because, not just because of the hard work that I had put in to graduate, but because they knew that I had a bright future ahead. That education got me ready for whatever it is that I wanted to do in life. To get a job, but also to pursue the things that I wanted to pursue, to achieve my potential. That's what today's announcement is really about. What happens when you leave Silverthorn? What are all of you going to do? I know some of you may have some ideas, some of you haven't thought about it a lot, some of you have minutes of thought but haven't figured it out. How many of you are thinking about maybe going to college or university? The majority, right? That's great. That's great. How many of you have thought about how you're going to pay for college or university? Not as many, right? Not as many. I don't blame you. I hadn't either when I was in high school. So college and university are clearly really important, right? We know that in the future, even today, about 7 out of 10 jobs require a college or university education. Right? So 70% of jobs require a college or university education. But in some communities, particularly in communities where people come from families with lower incomes, only 2 out of 10 students get to go to college or university. And one of the key reasons is because they can't afford to go. Right? They look into college, they look into university, they see how much it costs, and they decide they can't. Right? Or their family decides they can't. And so we want to change that, and that's what today's announcement is really about. If you think about the cost of going to university or college, right? There's tuition, there's books, there's laptops, there's equipment, there's housing, maybe you need to live in residence, there's food, right? That adds up pretty quick. Right? And right now, the way the system is, and Trustee Glover was referring to this, that if you want to go to university or college, you need to either pay for it yourself, or your parents pay for it, right? Help you pay. Or you borrow the money through OSAP, and you repay the loan once you graduate. And there are some grants available, but not that many. Well, we're going to change that. And that's what this announcement is about. So we are changing that. We are going to make sure that most students out there, all students really, are going to be eligible for grants. Grants are different than loans, right? Grants is something that you don't have to pay back. You get a check from the government, and you get to keep it. And the great thing is that that money can be used not only for tuition, but if you have money left over, you can use it for books and housing and food and expenses, things that you need to pay for to be able to go to college or university. Is that pretty cool? That's pretty cool, right? So there's going to be a lot, and you're going to get this money up front. You're going to get this money. You don't get now. What happens is when you get grants, in some cases when you get loans, you get them later once you've started school. Now you're going to get them right up front before you start, right? So you don't have to borrow the money to be able to pay. So that's another great thing. But the amount that you're going to get depends on your family income, right? So those families that have incomes of $50,000 or less will get enough grant money that they'll be able to cover the average tuition in Ontario. What that means is those families who have incomes of $50,000 or less will get the average tuition covered for free. That's pretty good, right? And so even if your family has an income of over $50,000, the OSAP will still help you a lot. You're still going to get more generous grants, and you'll still benefit from loans. And many families many students who come from families with incomes of over $50,000 will still get free tuition. That's still pretty good, right? That's a lot better than what it was when Trustee Glover, maybe not when Trustee Glover went to school, but it's better than when I went to school, I'll tell you that. So you get grants instead of loans, or a lot more grants than loans than you used to. You get the money up front. You can use the grants to cover all kinds of expenses, tuitions and other expenses. And interest-free loans are still available to you if you need more money to cover your costs, right? OSAP is still there for you in the form of loans. So that's really what today's announcement is about. It's really about making tuition free for a lot of students, providing more aid to those students with middle and higher incomes, and really ultimately making college and university more affordable so that all of you have the opportunity to go to college or university if you want to. That's the announcement that I'm making to you today. So what I want to show you though is that we want to make this as easy as possible for you to apply for. We want to make this as easy as possible for you to understand how much you can actually get in grants and loans. And so the government of Ontario has created a website that allows you to figure that out. And I'm actually going to demonstrate it for you here on the screen, okay? So it's really easy to find. It's called you go to ontario.ca/OSAP, and you'll get this page. And Catherine, who's my constituency assistant there at the front, is going to demonstrate for us. So what you do here is you have the opportunity to input a little bit of information. There's a couple of pieces of information that you go in and you provide, and this website will tell you how much in grants and how much in loans you can expect to get, more or less. So let's do an example here. So the first drop-down menu, Catherine, can you click on that first drop-down menu? Asks you, are you in high school? Did you leave in 2013 or later, or did you leave before 2013? So let's just say you're in high school, because that's the case for all of you. Are you married or common law? We're going to assume you're not. Most of you aren't married. Are most of you married, or most of you not married? Not married. Okay. Okay. So let's leave the box unchecked. I'm not married either. Okay. We'll assume that most of you don't have any children. Okay. And let's assume parental income. Let's start with $30,000. Okay. Let's just assume your family has $30,000. And let's say you want to go to college. Catherine, if you click college. And let's assume you're going to live with your parents. Okay? So if you scroll down now, this tells you how much funding you can expect. So in the purple bar shows you how many grants you get. That's money you keep. That's a check from the government. Okay? So $4,600 you will get for each year. And your loan you'll be eligible for in this case is $1,700. The gray bar shows how much school typically costs, or how much college typically costs, okay? So this shows you that tuition would be about $2,900. So you can see here that this student would get $4,600 in grants, their tuition is only $2,900. So their tuition is free, right? And in fact, because they're still going to have some grant money left over that they can use for fees, for supplies, or for living expenses, some of the other things in that gray bar, right? So the student still has to contribute a little bit of money. You can see the purple bar is not as big as the gray, but the purple bar covers a lot of the gray, and it fully covers the tuition and then some, right? Okay? So Catherine, why don't we go up and do another example? Let's assume your family has income of $50,000. How many of you think you want to go to college? A few hands. How many think you want to go to university? Okay, let's click on university. All right? And let's assume you're not married, and let's assume you don't have any children. You could put the university at Catherine, that'd be great. There we go. Okay, good stuff. And then if we scroll down, so in this case, this student would get $6,500 in grants. That's the check from the government that you get to keep, okay? The loan you'd be eligible for is approximately $4,000, okay? And the average tuition in Ontario, and that's the average, right? Some programs are more expensive than others, so you have to figure this out and look into each program that you want to go to and what it would cost. But in this case, tuition is $6,500, that's the average across Ontario, and fees and supplies on average about $2,700. So you can see that the grant fully covers the tuition. So for this student, the tuition is free, right? And they'll get loans to help them cover some of their other expenses. And those loans, you don't pay interest on those loans until after you graduate and you're employed, right? So you have money to be able to pay the interest and pay back the loan. Okay? Let's do one more example. We have time. Let's go up to $70,000 in family income. Let's do university. Let's keep all the other things the same again. Okay, so let's assume you're not living. Okay, great. So you uncheck the box. So in this case, what we've done is we've assumed that you're not living at home. Okay, you're not going to live with your parents. Okay, so here you can see that the grant you would get is $7,300. This is if your family has income of $70,000 or less, you get $7,300. You get a loan of $8,300. Your tuition, the average tuition is $6,500. So this student's getting their tuition for free, right? And they have some money left over from the grant to be able to pay living expenses, and the F stands for fees and supplies, about $2,700 on average. So in each of the three cases I've provided to you, you get your tuition for free, right? And even those students who have higher incomes, I won't show you more examples, but even if your family has greater income than this, you're still going to be eligible for a lot of grants and loans, right, to help you cover your costs, right? So the reason this announcement is exciting is because 150,000 students across Ontario, right, and that includes many of you, will get your tuition for free, right? And you'll get money to pay for your living expenses, right? So, remember when I started, I told the story about my grandparents, my family, and how proud they were when I graduated, right? And they were proud because they saw a future that was bright for me, because I was going to be able to achieve my potential. That's what I want, that's what the government of Ontario wants for all of you, right? We want all of you who raised your hand, who said you may want to go to college or university, to be able to go if you want to. And in the past, the cost has been a problem for a lot of students and a lot of families, and we're trying to eliminate that, okay? So that's the announcement for today, and do we have some time for a few questions? Yeah?